Alright, so quick project. This is a Squier Mustang, and a guy here in Dublin has asked me to set it up and replace the nut on it, and I'm just going to take it a bit further for him. I'm going to rewire the control plate. I'm going to leave the switch because it's fine for now. I'm going to rewire this with an Emerson Pro volume pot and another CTS here, and I'm going to use a switchcraft jack. I'm going to put in the Tusq nut, and then I'm going to roll the fingerboard edges and dress the fret ends as well. I'll probably end up putting a shim in the neck just to give a better brake angle, because I don't want these saddles to, have to drop too low. Pretty cool guitar, love the color, and keen to see how it's going to turn out. Okay, I've already gone over it with my fret rocker and just double checked for any significant high frets. There were a few, so I tapped those down quickly, so that's taken care of. We don't have to do a level. I'm going to do the rolling of the fingerboard edges now. Excuse me. And I'm going to dress the fret ends. So I'll first start with dressing the fret ends, and this is my modified StewMac fret end dressing file. I've just popped a piece of drumstick on it, which has worked really well, and it just makes it easier to handle. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and round these guys off. They do feel very pokey. What we're looking for is that played in feel. I need to do the ends as well. Here I just have a piece of flat maple with some 220 grit that's stuck to it. I'm not looking for perfection in terms of the straightness, but this is pretty straight. So I just use this to just kiss those edges a little bit. Way better. Just having a fretboard that's has nasty rolled over edges and fret ends that are round and smooth just makes the guitar feel more expensive than it is, Really want to be careful not to slip up onto the top of the fret and scar the top, because we're not leveling these frets and then obviously recrowning them, so we don't have the luxury of getting rid of file marks with a fret crowning file after this. So many different methods to this, and everybody's got their own technique and everybody's got their own goal as to what they want the end of the fret to look like. I just like it to feel good, and there's a little triangle on the face. I like it to be nicely rounded off, but in the end I'm going to hit it with different sort of sandpapers and stuff when I polish the frets in the end, so you know, it's going to be nice and smooth. What I sometimes do is also take a fret crowning file and just roll it over the end there, just to get rid of that peak. If you feel up and down, this side compared to the side is just way better. The other way I like to dress the fret ends is not just over the top from that way down, but actually coming up. It helps to deal with burrs and helps to really get that metal rounded off from the bottom edge. So here we go like this. Let me do one that I haven't done already. There you go. So if you can see that, I might just zoom in a little bit there for you. There we go. Can we get some focus there? Thank you. Just like so. I find this actually gives me an even better result. You can also see exactly what you're doing. And oh yeah. Alright, so this is how I roll the fingerboard edges. I'm starting off with this file up at the top here, and you've got to go fairly flat to start off with. You don't obviously file the top of the fingerboard, but you want it to feel like a real soft played in fingerboard edge. So I'm really not pushing at all. I'm switched to this little diamond file. Sometimes I feel the fingerboard isn't going to take as much, you know, of an aggressive file as this, so I'll switch to this guy. It also, the diamond files don't leave file chatter, which is easier to clean up when you're sanding it down later. Wow, that's perfect. Just a little more, and all the way over to the edge so that it feels natural. Now when I come and polish these ends, it'll all clean up nicely and feel neat and tidy. Obviously, you know, rolling the fingerboard edges on rosewood, Palfera, ebony, and the darker woods is obviously, you know, very durable stuff that's not lacquered or anything. When you come to maple, you know, you can do this, but then it's down to refinishing the neck as well. So think about that. I don't go right up to the fret most of the time. Sometimes I just touch it a little. I'm really not applying much pressure because you don't want to overcook it. There you go. Oh, it feels a lot better. And that's how you do it. Just makes a cheaper guitar feel that much more expensive. You gotta really keep rounding it and keep moving because you don't want it to have a sharp edge. You know, you want to have an angle that's been cut in, like a bevel. You want it to be round. So that's how you do that. Okay, once I've done the edges, I grab some foam-backed sandpaper. This is really worn out. This was 400. I guess it would be sitting around about 600 now in terms of its effectiveness. But because I'm gonna polish the tops individually, I got no issue coming this way, up and down the neck. And this basically just smoothens out everything that I've just done. So all of the dressing of the frets, the rolling of the edges, this just ties it all in and makes it feel pretty. Oh yeah. Man, that's so much better than it was. Nice. There we go. Alright, I think I'm going to polish the tops of the frets next. So what I do here, quickly get rid of a lot of the dust because I'm going to use some tape. Actually, I'm not going to use tape. It's Indian laurel, I think, this wood, which is interesting. This was on that same Squier telly that I did the ultimate upgrade on, and go check that video out if you haven't. Not bad wood, but I'm going to end up scraping the fingerboard clean with the blade anyway, like so, to get away and to get any file marks, anything off it. I'm going to use the same sandpaper, and I'm going to keep rolling over the edge a little bit. And then I'm going to use, not steel wool, I don't want to use steel wool today. I have this old 3M polishing pad. This, I don't know what grit it is, but use your discretion, figure out what works for you. This is so worn out, but I'm coming in sort of an angle. I'm not just going straight, and I'm not going laterally. I'm coming in at maybe 30-degree angles as well. It just helps to clean up any other sanding marks, file marks. Oh, there we go. I've tried the fret erasers. Maybe I haven't had enough patience for them, but I just find this just works. And this is a two-stage process. So the amount of tools I spend money on. But in general, the right tool gives you the right result, right? Right result, right? Yeah. I mean, just look at that. That is so much sweeter. Yeah. And that's how I do it. Okay, I'm going to change the nut now. And there's a couple of methods to getting these out, depending on how stuck they are and what the finish is. So first of all, I'm going to just score in all areas. Now I know there's no finish on this, but I just, out of habit, do these things. Just scoring the edge with an X-Acto. Okay. Typically with Squiers and these nuts, I found that they pull out from the top. Sometimes I try to tap them out from the side, from either side. The risk is you can always end up chipping off this section over here. That's actually happened to me before, where that whole top section of rosewood or ebony is prone to it. Will chip right off if you're too rough. I found if I just hold it with some cutters and I just wiggle it, do you hear that? You hear that glue kind of popping, and then I wiggle it and lift at the same time very carefully. There she comes. Neat and tidy. There we go. I'll take a blade and I'll just score the edges here. I mean, I'll just scrape the edges, not score. Just to get the glue And really what I'm doing is this. I don't want to change the shape of this slot, but with this little blade and going from side to side, I'm not really doing that. The other thing is just carefully cleaning out the edge there, and then I'll leave it. If there's a lot of glue left behind, or if there's pieces of nut left behind, then I will probably take a little micro chisel to it, if she can get in. Sometimes to scrape away the glue. Sometimes I'll use a saddle slot cleaning file. It's a very small file. It's sort of got that 1/8 width to it, and it's really flat, and I'll just carefully file it up. But this looks pretty good. And in is going to go this Tusq nut. Now, a couple of things about this. We've got a little factory machine nib there. I'll file that off, but that is there on purpose. Don't be that person who trims that off and puts a curved nut in a flat slot. This is there to pretend that this whole nut is flat along that surface. So he has a little mini straight edge. You can see what I mean by that. See? This is a flat slot. And so we need the flat version of this nut, which is fine. I'm just going to trim that little burr off there from when it was created. Oh, perfect. Doesn't even need to be changed or made narrow. Yeah, this client chose the right nut for this. Good man. Nice work, Justin. Cool. Let's get at it. I'll cut it off. There we go. I'm going to position this where I want it in terms of that direction, and then see where I need to take material off, because it's a little proud on either side. Do I need to fit it that way and then take most of it off this side, or more this way and take more of it, off that side? I'm going to figure that out, and I'm just going to file and sand and polish that edge, and then fit it properly, and then I'll come back when I need to glue it in. Alright, so I have polished the nut. I can hear you sniggering. With this, there's obviously a gap all the way along this edge and this edge from where it's going to actually touch the base of the nut slot. So I'm going to put a dab of glue over there, and just there and there. I'm going to have to obviously clean up any squeeze out. So in she goes, and I'll let that sit. There's no squeeze out in the front, but I'm gonna let it sit and not touch it. Alright, onto the wiring. So 2 high grade pots, the best Emerson Pro for the volume, and a regular CTS for the tone, and then I'm going with a Switchcraft jack for the jack. This is what the internals look like right now, so it'll be a mild improvement. So I'll pull these ones out and then get these ones in and get started. Okay, so I've done that wiring. and it looks a whole lot better now. That should set us up for other upgrades down the track. What was interesting is that these were 250k pots, and these are humbuckers, but I plugged it in and it doesn't sound overly dull or anything like that. So I went with 250k. Can be changed at a later stage anyway. But yeah, it looks a lot better and a big improvement. So I'll move on to the setup, put it back together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the height of the nut slots, and a couple of things. Obviously you don't want them to be too deep, you don't want them to buzz open, you also want the angle to be correct, so cutting it at the correct angle in terms of that way, plus not skew obviously, and the right thickness. You don't want the string to bind in the slot, you don't want the slot to be too narrow, and you also don't want the string to vibrate laterally in and be loose in the slot, so you don't want to be too wide. So I use a bunch of different files, different thicknesses, and so I use this as well, my trusty piece of veneer, and I just use this to see how far I'm getting in terms of how low the string is. And I know that if it buzzes with this piece of veneer in between the string and the fret, I know that I'm getting close. So that's just what I do. One other thing that I do is I start with the outer strings, and then I do the two inner strings, and then visually I go down and I visually cut these two strings, the A and the B, to be in the same arc as these guys, so from a feel perspective it feels right. I'm just going to clean off the top of the nut now, so I'm just going to loosen the strings and just finish this off. And that's the finished nut. Looks real pretty. It's amazing that you can actually polish the Graphic stuff as well, which is actually really cool. I know guys like Saul Cole guitars and that's about, they use Graphic and look, polish it up, it looks beautiful. It doesn't always have to be bone, and I think this is great. Alright, so it's all done, and here's a quick sound demo for you. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.